Tomorrow, Dr. Olympio is going to play Rack 3 for us. So if we could have our panel come up, we've had to reorganize a little bit again, but it's all for the greater good, so don't be shy. So the original concept was to talk about the essential elements of a young adult colorectal cancer center, and we're still going to do that, but we've made some adjustments. So we're going to start with Eric Reddy, who spoke earlier today. Eric is a survivor, and we're going to ask Eric to just talk to us a little bit from his perspective what he feels would be most valuable in a young adult colorectal cancer center at a leading institution or any institution.
I'm excited to be here. I'm really humbled to be here in a lot of ways. You know, I went to school and graduated with a degree in sports management, so naturally I'm here telling people who are literally trying to cure cancer my opinions on things. It just makes complete sense with how the world works. But I do want to talk a little bit about my personal experience in a brief way about the care that I received, the care facility that I went to, and where maybe there were some opportunities for enhancement, and also in connecting with some other individuals who are survivors or even current patients, getting some of their feedback about how their care facilities might be able to be enhanced in some way, shape, or form. As many of you know, at this point, anybody who's under the age of 32, 33 years old is a digital native. So they do not understand a world where there was not email in the past. And so I think when you're thinking about early onset and unfortunately seeing ages as young as 24 today, even earlier for some individuals, they only know a world of technology. And so really adapting these facilities to be as technologically advanced as possible is really key. And I do believe that, you know, having people within the cancer care community, connecting with your IT departments, with your development teams, understanding that there are ways to enable technology much, much more aggressively into the care treatment. I don't know how many of you took an Uber here today? I did. Yeah, you can get into an Uber right now and tell them what song you want to play on the radio. When I went to Mass General, which is a fantastic facility, and I highly recommend them, but my first day there was a VHS recorder in the corner. It's fine. Maybe not for a certain demographic, though, who might want to take advantage of Netflix subscription that they might have or something like that. The other piece too, and I've said this a couple times to some folks today, is unfortunately I'm not independently wealthy and I do have to go to work, even if I am dealing with cancer. And so having some sort of facility or some sort of area inside my care facility where I was getting treatment, where there maybe is a workstation set up for not only myself, but for the caregivers. You know, my spouse came along or friends came along many different times. Having a space for them to be able to still accomplish what they need to get that paycheck every 2 weeks was really, would be really a nice bonus as you were to design the perfect type facility. The other thing too, thinking back to college again, sports management degree, highly recommend Thomas College if anyone's looking for that. They, at my university, did a really great job at celebrating wins. So you could walk up and down the hallways throughout the university and you see pictures of kids who graduated 25 years ago or 2 years ago where they're being successful in the world. And there's really no reason why at your cancer care facility you can't see Jane Doe up on the wall, 5 years in remission from whatever it might be. When I was walking in that first day, I didn't know what to expect. And so if I could have even just had a small glimpse of these people made it, why can't I be that next person? Just having that visual reminder, maybe it would be so much more important than seeing that beautiful white wall that's in every single medical office I've ever been in to date. You know, a couple of the other areas that really stood out was on the caregiver side of things. You know, they did a really fantastic job with explaining to me what was to come over the next few weeks when I began getting treatment. There was not a Caregiver 101 program for my wife who was in her mid-30s and, to be honest, had never been a caregiver to really anyone. We don't have children. We've got a dog named Chelsea who's great. We can send her on the dog walker whenever we want to, so it's not that big of a lift. But having just more of a response team around, here's what you need to expect as the spouse or partner of that early onset individual is really going to be a different experience probably from somebody who's in their 50s, 60s, 70s, who unfortunately may have had to be in a care situation, whether it be with their own parents to date or their spouse possibly in a different situation that might be there. And two, thinking about from the caregiver perspective, the support groups. I mean, there's been great, and Dana-Farber, I'm sure they're going to talk about it here in a few minutes, but there's a really fantastic youth group that's there, a part of that facility. I remember seeing signs up for the caregiver support groups, which are taking place between 11 and noon on Tuesday afternoons. Again, if you're a working professional, how are you making it to that and still getting through what you need to do on a day-to-day basis? I won't talk about the food. I'm sure there's some thoughts there in other places as well. But really the other piece that I did want to touch on was just transportation and continuing to highlight different ways to provide transportation or even partnering on transportation initiatives to get people more access to facilities. I ultimately made a decision to choose Mass General Hospital because I live just north of the city and there were more options for me to whether it be take the train in or to get to that facility in a more brisk way versus many of the other fantastic institutions that are in the greater Boston area. And we were just talking in the back, I can't imagine if I lived 40 or 50, 60 miles away from Boston and I had one car family. Those transportation options are so key, and just making sure you're continually explaining that, or again, partnering with the different municipal train or port authorities, whatever it might be, to give people more options along those lines. So a couple thoughts just from one patient side of things, and appreciate again all the work that everybody does here though.
We want to again thank Dr. Cersak for her presentation and outline of the program at Memorial. And an important part of that program is also Zaina Carrera, who's a nurse practitioner there. Zaina is going to talk to us about their survivorship program. And it's a fantastic program. Zaina.
Thank you, Dr. Weber, Cindy, for inviting me today. And I will keep to the very minimum of a few minutes here to go through our slides very quickly. So, oops. Do I need a... I think I might need a tutorial. There we go. Okay, so this is a slide that Dr. Cersak had put up in her presentation that nicely summarizes our Young Onset Center, focusing on how it is truly a multidisciplinary approach in taking care of our patients. Now, survivorship is one component, really, of taking care of our young onset patients. And survivorship can mean many different things to someone. It can mean that it starts when you're completed with treatment, or it means that you are living with cancer, through cancer, and it's not only the patient, but also the caregiver, family members, and friends. Understanding that this group of patients has unique needs that are quite different than somebody diagnosed much later in life really started us thinking, obviously, what these specific implications of treatment are. Not only physical implications, psychosocial implications of treatment and diagnosis, but also the practical implications, which have also been highlighted, impacting education, employment, finances. So with thinking about that, as part of our Young Onset Center, we really started to focus on addressing these needs from the time a patient comes to see our physicians, and then working closely with other disciplines and making appropriate referrals when necessary, whether it's to one of our social workers or as well as seeing one of our fertility specialists. So continuing through their trajectory of treatment at Memorial, the patients are then, once they enter into long-term follow-up and survivorship, we continue to focus on that. And as we continue to learn about this the specific needs of this group of patients, then we are continuing to evolve and change. Now, survivorship has 4 essential components. Number 1, surveillance of their primary cancer. Number 2, identifying any other secondary cancers that they may be at risk for. Focusing on late effects of treatment and managing them. So, there are persistent long-term late effects. For example, neuropathy that may still persist for many years after treatment. And really, how is that impacting their quality of life? And what can I do at my point when I see patients for that? I work closely with other disciplines, other physicians, and make appropriate referrals. And with that, the next focus is also coordinating with our primary care providers. Patients do follow up with their primary care providers for their routine health care. It's important for them to know what treatments patients have received. What are their long-term late effects? What testing are they receiving by their oncologist or cancer center? And really, what should be done in the primary care setting? We provide patients with cancer treatment summaries, as well as their primary care providers. And last but not least, health promotion. So, it goes without saying, healthy lifestyle, exercise, following a healthy diet, focusing on, avoiding tobacco, as well as limiting alcohol consumption. As we heard earlier, this is a group of patients that do live a healthy lifestyle and ran that marathon before they were diagnosed. So at the time that I see patients, I try to see what their level of, quality of life is. Are they still able to do those things? Identifying any barriers that may keep them from continuing to lead a healthy lifestyle. So with the interest of time, I'm just going to pop up here. There's Dr. Sursek, a lovely photo, and then our link for our Living Beyond Cancer Center and our Young Onset Colorectal Center, which will give you additional information regarding the different services that are provided. Certainly you can contact either one of us through those links. Thank you very much.
That was fantastic. Thank you. Remember, everything is being videotaped. It will be available to you, all the slide sets as well. So you'll be able to look at them for reference information. We're very, very fortunate to have Dr. Kimi Eng and Dr. Fasciano from the Dana-Farber Cancer Institute, where an enormous amount of careful thought has gone into a state-of-the-art young adult colorectal cancer center, which is also fully integrated with research initiatives and translational research. So thank you so much for being here, and we look forward to hearing about your program. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It is really our pleasure to be here to talk about all the incredible resources that we have available at Dana-Farber for young onset colorectal cancer care. So we only have a few minutes, so I will just go over very briefly the mission of our brand new Young Onset Colorectal Cancer Center, which was just launched in March of this year. And I will say that this center is a direct response to all of the testimonials and stories that we heard from patients and survivors this morning. We should be and we will take better care of you. And so the first mission is really centered around providing expert, compassionate, and multidisciplinary care to patients with young onset colorectal cancer. And this mission has allowed us to really pilot a brand new care model for these patients where everyone is assigned a dedicated program coordinator to help patients navigate through sometimes very complex health systems that are associated with a cancer diagnosis. This program coordinator will make sure that all of the supportive resources are made available to patients and that nothing is missed so that the care of the patient is comprehensive and goes beyond just the medical care of the cancer. We also offer a personalized treatment approach where every patient's tumor will be genomically profiled and the results are reviewed at a molecular tumor board. A personalized treatment recommendation that can include recommendations for out-of-the-box treatment options as well as potentially clinical trials will also be returned to the treating oncologist as part of our special GI target program. In regards to research, our mission is to promote scientific discovery and innovation so that we can really try and dig deep to find out what the underlying biological mechanisms are, identify risk factors, and facilitate development of novel therapies. And this is going to be accomplished through our flagship research study as part of the center, which is called the Beyond CRC Project, Better Understanding of Young Onset Colorectal Cancer, which I will talk a little bit more about in another session later today. And finally, our last mission is to increase public awareness and education around the rising burden of colorectal cancer so that we can arrive at a way to improve prevention and early detection. And this involves raising awareness and education, not just for patients, but also the medical community. So for patients, we'll be providing regular newsletters where we will highlight patient stories, other young patient stories, provide regular research updates as well as general information, and have dedicated programming around support groups and educational seminars in an annual forum. For the community, we are doing personal outreach to internal medicine practices, gastroenterology practices, and community cancer centers to raise awareness of this problem, and also dabbling in some government advocacy as well to increase funding for this area of research, as well as promoting screening at an earlier age. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Karen. We are very fortunate at Dana-Farber to have an even extra layer of support for young patients going through cancer through her young adult program.
Good afternoon. So I'm a clinical psychologist. I've been working at Dana-Farber for about 25 years. And I direct the young adult program there, which is a supportive care program for not only colorectal patients, but all young patients at Dana-Farber. And we are sort of in the process of integrating that with the young onset program and actually even trying to be more specific about what we offer to be specific to that population. I'm going to spend most of my few minutes talking about innovation and really innovation that addresses the needs of young people. So generally, our program is designed to enhance coping skills and promote resilience. As many of you know, young people have more emotional distress around cancer. To really provide innovations that use technology to help medical professionals with the unique social, emotional, and communication needs of this population, and to develop clinical processes that normalize and integrate psychosocial care. So I'm going to talk about a few of our initiatives. The one that you see there is our newly launched about 2 weeks ago smartphone app. It's called Aya, and it is a smartphone app that addresses the coping, it enhances coping skills for young adults. It has a few components that I'll highlight. One is that it has 6 different categories of coping, things like values and acceptance and communication and sort of take action, which are behavioral strategies to help young adults cope with cancer. It also has a community component where young adults create a profile and connect around coping strategies. It also has a geolocation device so that young adults can identify other young people who are treated at their center and connect with them if they would like to do that. So this is an innovation that is available right now to Dana-Farber young adult patients, but hopefully in the years to come, it will be available to other institutions to create community within their institution and promote coping. It does address some of these technology needs and the unique issues that young adults. They're on Facebook, they're Snapchat, these are the ways that they're communicating and connecting with each other. So our other innovations, we have a Twitter chat once a month to go over specific issues related to young adults and young adults coping with cancer. We have a YouTube channel. We also developed this conversation aid called Snapshot with some of our young adult patients. That is something we use to have discussions with young adults about the common psychosocial concerns and to try to help them determine what's most important for them to talk about. So we use this in the context of clinical care to help young adults with communication around what's happening for them psychologically and emotionally. So there's a lot more we can do, and we're looking into other ways to use technology, but I just wanted to kind of whet your appetite for some of the ways we've done that and some of the ways we've accommodated the unique needs of this population. We will talk a little bit more in the breakfast tomorrow morning if people are interested about psychosocial issues and have a discussion about that. So thank you for having me.
Well, that's a fantastic example of why it's so important for us all to get together. Congratulations on your program. Our next speaker is Kristen Nelson. Krista is not only a licensed social worker, she has an amazing array of other credentials. And she's brought all that to bear on improving the quality of care at the Providence Cancer Institute. And so we're very fortunate to have her with us today to talk about her work on young adult colorectal cancer. Thank you so much. Thank you.
So thank you for being here and thank you for the invitation. I'm going to talk just quickly about ways that we could provide care where there's gaps, things that you could do in a different way to sort of help support patients and their families. And I just loved hearing all these great examples today of what we're already doing in the community. But in general, when we start a program or when you're thinking about greeting people who are going through treatment for colorectal cancer and their family, I think right away you need to screen who is there, what do they need, and not we need to screen everyone who comes through. And so this first slide just shows a little bit about, we use iPad it's called distress screening, to look at patients and their families and see what their needs are. So transportation, those things are identified right from the start. And I think a lot of times people are so overwhelmed when they're newly diagnosed that they don't know all these resources are out there. So number one, I would just say in a program, you need to screen for psychosocial distress, as well as any resource needs that patients may have. I think the other thing that's really important and things that we've done at our center to be new and improved, I love the idea of a workstation. It's like, oh, I need to add that. But is to provide support and connection, because people, younger people with cancer, we know they benefit from support from other young people. And so one of the ways we've done that is we have video online support groups for our patients, and a way for them to connect, and they can do it from work at their lunchtime. You can use your iPhone. We use Zoom technology, or we have groups in the evening where people can participate. We also have caregiver support groups, so for partners or caregivers of those going through cancer treatment also can get support in the comfort of their home or at work or at the park while they're on a walk. It's pretty fun to facilitate those groups because you get to meet people's animals and you watch their kids flying by. It's pretty fun. And then the other thing that our center has done is we have a free drop-in daycare. So a lot of people, when they're looking to make these treatment decisions, they also may have young families and sort of needing to know where my kids go during chemotherapy. Our drop-in daycare takes 6 months to age 10. So unfortunately, it's only Monday through Friday, but it's still a nice option for families who are going through cancer treatment to get support. And on that notion of families, I think one of the most important things, I think we saw some statistics today that 50% of people going through cancer treatment may have kids at home, young colorectal cancer patients. And we know in general, all cancer patients, 24% of them have kids 18 or younger in the home. So we've created a program that provides, uses art as a modality to communicate about cancer. It's free, open to the community. We provide a meal. Families come in and then they're able to connect using art. Sometimes the families stay together 3 times a year, and other than that, we divide into age-specific groups. I typically do the 5 to 12-year-old group. Then we have a teen group and adult groups. We have anywhere from 40 to 60 family members come a month, and just constantly provide ongoing counseling and support. So the big things are parents who have cancer need education. They want education from healthcare providers on how to talk to their children about cancer. So having a specialty or an opportunity for that is really important for these people. I mean, people will tell me I was diagnosed with cancer. I didn't really hear anything because the whole time I'm like, how am I going to pay my mortgage because I'm a bartender and I don't have disability benefits, and how am I going to tell my kids? So this is just an example of some of the art that we've done. This is actually a woman who had advanced colorectal cancer. On the left side, we did prayer flags, or like Buddhist wish flags, where people wrote what their wishes were for time, and then their children also write this one. I put this one up because she wanted $1 billion. I thought that was fun. And she wished her mom didn't have cancer. So I'm going to stop. It's my 3 minutes. Thank you.
No, I don't think so, but we're going to move to a break. Are there any pressing questions for, I mean, this is outstanding work. Does anyone have any particular questions for this world-class panel? Yes, at the back. Dennis, I think it is.
Yeah, this is great to learn about all these opportunities. I applaud you all.
Do we have a mic for Dennis? Or just speak
I can
loudly,
hear.
Dennis.
Do any of you, have you incorporated sort of the family from the standpoint of the familial risk into these programs? So that all these people you're seeing, particularly young people, their relatives or siblings are really at increased risk. So have you been able to also incorporate that kind of an educational thing? It might not be the thing you do at the beginning, but it could sure be something that could be helpful for that family going forward. And often patients really love the opportunity to give something back to their family members who've been with them for all that time. Do y'all do that?
Yeah, so I can address that. As part of the clinical component of our center, we actually started a new initiative to offer upfront genetics counseling and appointments for all patients at the time of their first visit. Because many of these patients are getting missed for genetic counseling and genetic screening, and the counseling of their family members and first-degree relatives is also missed. So we are trying to capture them right away at the time of the first visit, both when they show up to our medical oncology clinic, but also when they show up to the colorectal surgery clinic. And we're working on ways to be able to try to get genetic testing done and results available even prior to their surgery.
So that was a perfect question because right after the break, we are going to move into our genetics session where a lot of these issues will be addressed. We have world-class faculty assembled for that. So it's good to be transparent in clinical medicine and life in general. We're an hour behind. It's been great, right? It's been wonderful. But, you know, it's a reality that we have to face. So, you know, I've taken myself out of a whole bunch of stuff, but that's okay. So we're going to try and have an under 10-minute coffee break so you're all rejuvenated. And then we're going to come back and do our genetics session, which is going to be world-class. And we'll look for other ways to make it up. I just want to say, without being melodramatic, so that you're patient with us, you know, the issues on timing are just the realities of life. We have a contract with the Times Center. We are honored and privileged to work with the Times Center, but they have employees who have contracts who have to leave at a certain time. So it's very important to us to be respectful of the opportunity they've given us, and we're determined to do that because we like to come back. So I just wanted to share that with you so you understand. Let's go get a coffee break and rejuvenate, and then we'll come back for one of the world's greatest sessions on cancer genetics ever.